Hi, my name's Tina Simon, and you're watching WBGU PBS Cooks, our locally produced pledge show that not only teaches you how to cook, but also introduces you to very talented chefs and bakers in your area. This episode of WBGU PBS Cooks is titled WBGU Cooks Made It. It combines witnessing the craftsmanship of cooking and baking, along with the amazing story of how these talented members of our community started their own businesses right here. However, this WBGU Cooks is going to be a bit different than normal. While we typically showcase 4 cooking segments, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a unique format for this show. We will showcase 2 of our normal cooking segments, our first being a chocolate-covered strawberry cake that is just as delicious as it is beautiful, followed by a steak that is grilled to perfection and seasoned with spices that are processed right here in Ohio. New to the show will be 4 mini cooking segments. In our WBGU Cooks Minis, we chose 4 quick and easy recipes out of our own WBGU Cooks cookbooks, and we expedite the cooking process for condensed step process you can easily follow along and make with us at home. And last but certainly not least, we pulled out of our archives one of our favorite recipes, chocolate chunk cinnamon coffee cake from our WBGU Cooks Marathon, Cook's Choice, filmed in 2006. We hope you enjoy the show, and we appreciate your continued support. To donate, visit WBGUPBS.org or call 1-800-410-2727. Simon. We're here now with Eve Stump from Findlay, Ohio's Bread Needs. I smell something wonderful baking. What is that?
Yeah, so we went ahead and already baked the cakes we are going to be frosting later on so that they had time to cool. And today we are going to be making a chocolate-covered strawberry cake, and for those baking at home, I'm still going to show you how to make the batter.
Great, so we're going to start off with the batter.
Yes.
And what do we add to make a great batter?
All right, so here we have all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And then for the wet ingredients, we have milk, vegetable oil, vanilla extract, and eggs.
You were saying when you make a chocolate cake that's not the creamed.
Yes, so for vanilla cake, most generally it's the creaming method. There is a method called the reverse creaming, but the creaming method is creaming butter and sugar to make a light and fluffy batter. And this is just simply just the wet and dry ingredients, and you just add the 2 together.
So Eve, while you're doing that, you're the owner of Bread Needs, am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you're really young, so that's awesome. Good for you. When did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
I have known since I can't even remember. Since I can remember. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on just to mix all the wet ingredient or dry ingredients together. Oh.
Okay,
right.
So we had our.
Start with the milk over here. So the thing about this chocolate cake is I add hot water at the end, and that's what makes it nice and moist. So I'll go ahead and add everything but the hot water, and then I'll add that at the very, very end.
So did you go to school for cooking? Did you like cooking? Do you like baking? There is a difference, I guess.
I do enjoy baking more just because I love sweets. I would say that's part of the reason. But I did go to Millstream Career Center where we learned a lot about cooking and baking as well, and just food safety in general. So that definitely was a big help. But a lot of my baking is just self-taught, watching YouTube, watching Food Network.
Yeah, that's all over the...
Oh, gosh. There we go.
Okay, so now you want to add the hot water.
Yes, I'm going to add 1 cup of hot water. I'll grab this one, actually.
And this makes it extra moist.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever added hot water to... You know, it's funny, when you make this, actually making a cake from scratch is not that hard.
No.
You know, I know a lot of us go to the store, you can get, you know, pre-made cake mixes, nothing wrong with that, but I would suggest everybody try to make a cake from scratch, because I just think that it tastes homemade, it's not that difficult.
And you get the satisfaction of doing something from start to finish.
Now, are you into decorating? Are you big?
Yes, I love decorating. That's probably one of my favorite parts. Definitely is just the decorating part of it.
So what do you have at Bread Needs? Just more than breads?
Yes. So we are a bakery and deli. So Bread Needs has always been just breads and sandwiches. We have pasta salad, potato salad, and chicken salad and stuff like that. And then when I came in, I just wanted to offer my side of things, which is cakes and cupcakes. And we also added coffees and teas. We are carrying Flatlands coffee out of here in Bowling Green.
Which is here, BG.
Yeah, and then Piper and Leaf Tea, and they're out of Alabama. So we do like to expand our options just to offer more to
And now, right now, you're just open Monday through Friday, right?
Yes, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30.
And if somebody wanted to order a cake, can you pretty much do anything?
Yes, most of our cakes we're known for our specialty flavors, so not just the plain chocolate with vanilla frosting. We're known for chocolate-covered strawberry, triple chocolate brownie, things like that. Even cinnamon roll, we even make our own cinnamon rolls for the top of that, those cakes and cupcakes.
Okay, so we've got it all mixed up.
All right. And then all my cakes are 3 layers. So here we have 3 cake pans.
And you oiled these ahead of time?
Yes, I did oil them, and then I always add parchment to the bottom just to ensure that the cake doesn't stick to the bottom. This is just extra protection, because then the whole cake is ruined.
Yeah, that's true, because it has to be balanced.
Yes, yes.
So I know you said earlier that when you're making a cake for the store, you actually measure it.
Yes, we measure
Which makes
out
sense.
that.
Again, you want everything to be even. But for today, she's gonna eyeball it. So how much do you usually put in each pan?
So each recipe makes 6 cups of batter, so we do 2 cups per pan.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball the 2 cups per pan today.
Yeah, that's okay. That'll work for us. So how long do these cook then?
It ranges anywhere between 18 to 25 minutes.
Okay. And do you do just like you do at home, stick toothpick in?
Yep, toothpick, or they even have cake testers. We use those.
Okay, which is, you know.
But, and even if you don't have a toothpick or a cake tester, if you press down on the bottom and the cake bounces up, that means it's done, or the cake pulls away from the sides of the pan, then you know it's done.
Oh, okay, so we got the pans ready. We're gonna go ahead and we can put those in the oven, but we said that we had some already done, so we will go ahead and get those frosted and show you how to put together the cake. Now, when we first started, remember we talked about going ahead and making the cakes ahead of time so that they had time to cool. So now we're gonna go ahead and frost them. And one of the most important parts I hear is creaming the butter.
Yes.
And it has to be creamed for 5 to 6 minutes. So we went ahead and did that as well. And tell us why what's so important about that.
So when you cream the butter for 5 to 6 minutes, and I also use a whisk attachment rather than a paddle attachment, what we use for the cake, it incorporates air into the butter and makes it light and fluffy and almost melt in your mouth when it comes time to
And
eating
it does
the cake.
look, as you described it to me, whipped cream. It does, there is definitely a different texture to it. So it's very important to whip the butter, even though sometimes don't want to take the time, but I'm going to do that now. So, okay, so we got our butter already whipped and looks good. It's very light and fluffy. So the next step is the powdered sugar.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just going to add a little bit in at first, just so it doesn't fly
out
everywhere.
all over the place.
So I'll add just a little bit, and then we'll add more as the mixer's on. And as that gets incorporated, I'll add little bits at a time. So I'm going to add some heavy cream just to get all the butter off the side. And then we're going to turn it up and mix it, whip it for a little bit longer. I'll add.
So is this mix a pretty long time then? Or is it just...
Yes, it does. We kind of continue the whisking. The whipping.
So with milk, I mean, I know there's in the recipe it said a couple tablespoons, but you said you kind of...
Yeah, I definitely add way more than a couple tablespoons just because that's what makes it light and fluffy as well. Now I'm going to scrape the sides. That's also an important part because some of the butter might be on the sides and get stuck.
And we're making, this is going to be strawberry flavored, am I correct? And one of the ingredients calls for strawberry emulsion. And I wasn't sure what that was, so I asked, and it is a brand or a certain type of flavoring. However, it sounds like we can use strawberry extract.
Yes, that is more common. So that's what we were using today. I just had a splash.
Which is, they have all kinds of these flavorings now.
Yes.
As you said, they had a birthday cake flavoring that you used. For
birthday cake.
And this is just strawberry jam.
Yep.
So that's going to give us our strawberry flavoring.
And then I'm just going to mix this in.
And you just kind of, even though you didn't use all of the powdered sugar, you've done this enough that you can think, oh, if it's too wet, you can always add more powdered sugar.
Yeah.
Now, when you've added these ingredients, you're going to have to add more powdered sugar?
Yes, normally I add a half of the powdered sugar, and then the wet ingredients, and then the last half of the powdered sugar at the end. And then more whipping. This one's just frosting, you just whip, 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 whip. All right, I think that should be good.
Now, the one thing, the recipe that our folks at home will see, that you double the frosting recipe.
Yes.
Or at least 1.5. I think we did like 1.5 because you want to make sure you have a nice thick layer of frosting.
Yes. If I were making a 6-inch cake, I would say a single frosting batch would be okay, but I like all the frosting.
Yes, me too. Okay, well, I'm going to move this out of the way. It looks. Are we ready to start frosting?
Yes, we are.
So I'll have you take this and put that over there. I'm going to move this out of the way. Now we're going to put this beautiful cake together. I just wanted to let the folks know at home we went ahead and dipped the chocolate or the strawberries in some chocolate, and you did just take a little baggie and put some chocolate in it and cut the end off and did a little design to make them look nice. And the chocolate ganache was just some chocolate chips and heavy cream that you melted and put it in this little squirt bottle that will finish off the cake. So go ahead and tell us how you probably won't do like you would in the store, but just to kind of give us an idea of how this goes together and how it looks when it's all done.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start with the first layer.
Now you were talking about a crumb coat.
Yes, so normally the crumb coat is the first layer of frosting that you put on the outside of the cake, and it literally catches all the crumbs. So it normally doesn't look pretty and it looks very sloppy, but that's the crumb coat. And then usually after the crumb coat, I put it in the freezer, and then the final coat of frosting goes on, and normally that one goes on way prettier. You can't see any crumbs, and it just looks smooth.
And even with these, when they were done, you put them in the freezer before they've been sitting here for a little bit, but frosted them to make it a little bit easier to frost as well.
Yep, that's always a little trick as well, is just to pop them in the freezer right before you start decorating, just to make sure it's easier.
And I guess this is a good, I mean, I've made cakes before, but you just took, that's one of the big tips, that you just went ahead and filled a decorating bag, and makes it pretty easy to frost.
Yes. So I'm just putting frosting in between each layer. You can always add fresh strawberries. You can do some ganache in each layer. Be creative with it. Artist in your own way. So now I'm just going around the side. I just add frosting every once in a while, and then I'll refill my piping bag. Might get more. And then I'll go around and just smooth everything all together so there's frosting all throughout the cake. And I'll add frosting on top as well. Especially, it doesn't matter now that we're doing the sides, but you normally want to, oh, that didn't do it. Usually has like a bubble, that you want to get rid of, or else it will mess up your design or swirl at the top of the cake.
So you just pretty much plop it all down there.
Yes, it did not look pretty right now, but yeah. So I try to cover up the cake as much as possible, and I might have to add more frosting to do that.
Don't skimp on the frosting.
No, never. So I'm definitely going to have to go through and add more frosting. And if you're crumb coating it, normally I'd let the cake go ahead and show through. But for today, I'm gonna plow on the frosting right away. So now I will be doing the ganache drip. So I'm gonna start at the back. Normally I just put it on the side of my bowl to make sure it's not too runny, not too hot, and it will come out on the side of the cake okay.
It's supposed to drip, basically.
Yes. You kind of gotta move quickly with it.
And this was the milk chocolate, the chocolate chips, and the heavy cream.
Yep, and just to make this, you boil boil heavy cream, and then pour the heavy cream over the chocolate chips and just whisk it together.
So you said you do need to let it cool a little bit.
Yes, at first it would go, it's preference, I guess. I don't like my drips to go all the way to the bottom. I like them to go not too far down. So if you want them to go all the way down, then you can do it while it's hot. And at the top, my cakes, I always do this. It's just kind of a signature, the baking company and bread needs. Oh, sometimes it does that. The baking company and bread needs signature. We always do this at the top of all of our cakes.
You can never have enough chocolate.
No, you cannot. That is great. All right,
Very
so
nice.
that's the top of the cake. And then I'll go ahead and pipe these. I have just a star tip on here, so I'll go ahead and start piping the top of the cake, and just to make sure everything's even.
That looks simple, but elegant. You know,
Yes. It's definitely a perfect cake for Valentine's Day.
Little flowers.
Right.
Wow.
And then once that's done, I normally go to the bottom of the cake now. And I started my drip at the back of the cake where I found a little imperfection, so I'll find that right there. And then I normally start my piping for the bottom and the back as well.
And you know, I know you can buy chocolate covered strawberries, but it's pretty simple to make them.
Yes, it is. Just chocolate and strawberries. That's it.
And they have dipping chocolate now that you just melt. Wow.
So I just go ahead and add. All right.
Wow, that's very pretty. Thank you, Eve, for joining us today on WBGU Cooks Made It. We look forward to your business flourishing in the future. And I know I will be making a trip to Findlay to check out what you got down there, besides the cakes and the cookies and everything else. Stay tuned.
We'll get back to the kitchen at WBGU Cooks in just a moment. And of course, programs like WBGU Cooks don't just happen without your support. So all of the programming you see on WBGU PBS is a direct result of your support of the television station. And here's how you can help us out today. By dialing 1-800-410-2727, you can offer a gift of $60. And that $60 provides you with the Best of WBGU Cooks cookbook, our preview guide, our monthly guide to our programming for that particular month, and Passport. For $90, you receive the cookbook, this tablet holder, preview guide, and Passport. For $120, your gift provides you with the State of Ohio cutting board, preview guide, and Passport. And if you'd like all of these things for $180, your gift provides you with the cutting board, the cookbook, the tablet holder, preview guide, Passport, and the WBGU spoon. Now, 1-800-410-2727, just that simple. And keep in mind that all your dollars help to provide this kind of programming. Now, if you want to check out the recipes for today, go to wbgu.org/WBGU-Cooks. But again, to help us out and provide support for the programming that you enjoy on WBGU PBS, it's really quite simple. 1-800-410-2727 and various gift levels. For a gift of $60 today, you receive the Best of WBGU cookbook, preview guide, and Passport. For a gift of $90, it's the cookbook, this tablet holder, preview guide, and Passport. For $120, the State of Ohio cutting board, preview guide, and Passport. And for a gift of $180 to WBGU PBS, which provides local programming and national programming that you enjoy so much, you receive the cutting board, the cookbook, the tablet holder, preview guide, and Passport, and the WBGU wooden spoon. Who wouldn't want to have one of these, okay? 1-800-410-2727 is the number you need to call. And keep in mind that every single dollar you donate goes to provide programming like WBGU Cooks, all of our other local programming on WBGU PBS, and all the great PBS programming you enjoy so much. So Nova, Nature, Frontline, Masterpiece, Finding Your Roots, all of those great programming, a direct result of your gifts to us every day. So $60, Best of Cookbook, Spoon, Preview Guide, and Passport. $90, Cookbook, Tablet Holder, Preview Guide, Passport. $120, Cutting Board, Preview, and Passport. And for $180, that gift gives you everything we just talked about. 1-800-410-2727, and we appreciate your support, WBGU PBS. Now, let's get back to the kitchen and more of WBGU Cooks.
With WBGU Cooks Made It, and we now have with us the owner of Wildman Spice Company out of New Hampshire, Ohio, Issac Gray. He's going to be spicing up a classic dish of meat and potatoes with some of Wildman Spice Company seasonings. So I have to ask before we start, what is an underappreciated herb that you think people would like if they gave it a chance?
If I had to pick one of them, rosemary would probably be my favorite.
Well, good. We'll see how we're going to use that today. So we are going to start with steak.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started.
So this is just your basic ribeye steak. Pick it up at any supermarket. This one I think came from Walmart. So nothing, nothing too out of the ordinary here. Basically, we're gonna put it in the skillet, then the oven, then it should come out at about restaurant quality, hopefully.
Good, okay,
So,
I'm sure it will.
to get started, we're just gonna dab all of the excess moisture off of the steak.
Okay.
Wildman's has been in business since 1895. This is our 125th year in business, always been in Ohio.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Always been an Ohio company. It's now owned by our family, and my dad and I run the spice company out of New Hampshire, Ohio. Small business, but good business, and we enjoy it.
And you actually are wholesale. You sell your spices in a lot of stores around the country, all over the country.
Yes, mainly we are through like Ohio, Pennsylvania, out to the East Coast, but deal with a lot of farm markets and country stores and other small business owners. That's kind of
that's always nice.
How we've stayed in business so long. So.
Good. So what's our next step?
Next step is to coat with avocado oil. We use avocado oil because it's a little bit higher smoke point. This is one of those dishes that has a tendency to smoke if things are too hot, and the avocado oil helps a little bit with that.
Keeps that down a little bit.
But we just drizzle a little bit.
I don't know that I've ever used avocado oil. Avocados are supposed to be so good for you, so this can kind of help. Olive oil is good too, but something different to try.
Yep.
And so then you just your spices basically are they all mixtures or a combination of?
We have a full line of spices, seasonings, extracts, and flavorings. All of our blends are original blends to Wildman's.
So what spice are we going to use on our steak?
So to start, we're going to use Wildman's Chef Seasoning. This goes on everything from steak and burgers and chicken to green beans, any vegetable.
You said popcorn?
Even popcorn, yes. Even popcorn.
So it's a versatile spice.
Yes, it is. Yep, it's an all-purpose seasoning, kind of a seasoning salt. And I usually sprinkle it pretty generously across the top. And then
wow, the spices smell so good.
Yes.
You can always tell when they're fresh, you know, with the aroma.
Yeah. And this is peppercorn steak seasoning. And it's a little bit more coarse seasoning. And with this one, once it's done, I like to just press the seasoning into the meat a little bit.
And you do both sides?
And I do both sides, yep.
Okay. Now you don't really have a storefront in New Hampshire, but you have a website.
We do.
You can go to the website.
Wildmanspice.com.
Okay.
Yep.
You can go and check out all the goodies. Yep. Okay, so it looks awesome.
Yep.
What's our next step?
At this point, our skillet should be sufficiently hot. We actually might need to cool it down just a little bit before we put the steak in there because it will it'll smoke up your kitchen.
So how long are we going to cook this? Not that long, actually.
No, not that long. Actually, it only goes in the skillet for about 3 minutes each side, just to kind of sear both sides of the steak, seal it up, holds in all of the juices, and so it looks like we're cooled down.
And a cast iron skillet is another must-have for the kitchen.
Yes. Yep. Put the steak in.
Sizzle it on up.
Okay. And perfect. And as you can see, it's still going to smoke a little bit, but that's okay.
So what else can you tell us about your, like how many spices do you have? I mean, you brought some here that you're sharing with us, but.
Yeah. So we've got a full line. We package for retail 125 different items.
Wow.
And we have custom made displays that fit our bottles, and we'll go and set up retail locations with our display and all of our spices, and you can it's kind of a system where we build it to fit your store a little bit.
Nice.
We've got smaller item racks that hold like 30 items, and then some that are 40 or 80, and then we actually have a display that's an old like whiskey barrel that we've cut in half and stretched out.
Oh, that's cool.
It holds the full 120 items.
I can't imagine all those spices, how you can decide. How does, like if somebody said, oh, I want to try some, do you have some favorites that you would tell people?
Definitely.
Oh, you have to have this.
Yeah, well, we start with the chef seasoning. That's usually a pretty good base. I gotta check my time there. We got about 15 seconds before we flip that. The chef seasoning, the peppercorn steak, we're gonna use a garden fresh vegetable seasoning for the potatoes in a little bit. And then outside of that, our cinnamon is really, really good.
Yeah.
My wife puts it in her coffee every morning.
Oh, yeah. That probably smells yummy.
If you like cinnamon, if you like that flavor, it's delicious in coffee too.
So we probably want to turn that and then let that cook for, it smells wonderful.
Flip that.
Oh, that looks perfect.
Just about perfect there.
Another 3 minutes.
Let it cook on that side for 3 minutes.
So when that cooks, then we're going to put it in the oven, and that turns it into, you can decide what, we're going to use a thermometer to test the temperature.
Yep, we want to get it for medium rare, they say 140.
Okay.
So we'll take it to right at 140 and then immediately take it out of the oven. And then let it rest for 8-10 minutes, and then it's ready to eat. So
that is pretty quick, actually.
Yeah, the whole process, I mean, and it's good. It's good flavor. It's good steak. The seasoning obviously helps, but.
Now, we wanted to set that for, how long were we going to let this sit?
This, if I could get another piece of foil there. We are just going to let this sit for about 5 to 6 minutes to rest, and then we're going to put it in the oven. But in the meantime, we're going to get started on the potatoes.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so we got our steak resting here before we put it into the oven, and now we have our potatoes that we're going to make.
Yes.
And you had made ahead of time some butter.
Yep.
Flavored.
This is just a very simple compound butter. What we did was take soft butter, but it's not melted, just soft. And we used some rosemary and some thyme and some granulated garlic. And per about a half a stick of butter, put a teaspoon of each of those equal parts and just mix it up. And we're going to end up using it on the steak, excuse me, and on the potatoes.
Okay.
And it really adds that good herb flavor that I really like on beef. So.
Okay, so we want to start with getting our potatoes cooking.
Yep.
So we've just taken like 3 potatoes and diced them up.
Yep, very, very simple.
Using the same skillet that we used for the steak.
Yep, and then for this, we're going to use garden fresh vegetable seasoning.
So that you can use on any vegetables.
This is another one that I use all the time on a lot of different dishes, any vegetable certainly, any starch, potatoes, rice, stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. How do you decide which spice you're going to use? You have so many options.
I know it. Yeah. Well, you just got to pick and choose what you want to eat that night.
So what's in that? What's the different spices in that seasoning?
So it's a salt-based blend, but it has garlic, it has onion, and there's thyme in there with some black pepper.
Oh, okay. So just like an all-around. Yeah,
it's another one of those all-purpose seasonings. And then we're also going to use some chopped onion.
So that's instead of the chopping the onions and getting crying.
Yeah. So
and
this
tears.
is dried. And if you can't get fresh or you don't want to take the time for fresh, this is a great alternative.
And how long are our potatoes going to cook?
The potatoes usually take 15 to 20 minutes.
So by the time you've let your steak rest.
You let your steak rest, yep. And then, so for these, we're just going to, that skillet's still pretty warm. Kind of stir all this in here.
The spices just give it such a great aroma.
Yeah.
And it smells so good in
here.
Yeah. And you probably want to try to keep those in a single layer as much as you can so that they cook.
Yep, don't overload your pan. They cook better and they cook faster when they're
probably why you cut them up too in the different cubes. They cook. Potatoes are one of those things. Can take forever.
They can, yes.
So we had our steak sitting and it's ready to go into the oven, right?
Yes.
So we're going to add some.
So back to our steak. it should be sufficiently rested. And we are going to pull the foil off here.
I'll take that.
And looks good.
Oh, it smells
And then
wonderful.
we're just going to take.
And this was like a half a stick of butter and maybe a teaspoon of the different.
Yes, maybe a teaspoon of each of those.
And like you said, if you want more, you can add more or less.
Yep. So, and a lot of people like to do the butter ahead of time and refrigerate it. Again, it's not hard to make on the spot, so I usually just do it that way.
The biggest thing is remembering to soften it and not get it too melted.
Right. Yep. Because once
you had it nice here, it mixed up
separate
good. Yeah.
once it's melted, and that's not really what we want. So.
That looks yummy. Now we're going to use a thermometer so we know exactly.
Yep, I usually like my steaks at medium, medium rare to medium.
That sounds perfect to me.
So we've got a food thermometer, and they say that medium rare to medium, you want to get it stopped cooking right at 140.
Okay.
And for me, the only way that I know how to do that is with a thermometer. So
you just set it right.
Yeah. Gonna go in here, and this obviously stays outside.
Got it.
And it has a little magnet on it, and it should stay right there.
So that seems pretty simple.
Yeah, and it even beeps at you when it's done. So
okay.
It's perfect.
So do we need to mess with the potatoes, or are they pretty much
at this point?
Give them a little stir.
We can stir them up again and probably add the rest of our butter into the potatoes.
Okay.
And the plate seems plenty hot, so we're going to turn that down just a little bit.
And you used about half, is it a half and half kind of measurement for half on the steak and half on the
Roughly,
vegetables?
yeah. I usually put a little less on the steak and a little bit more in the potatoes. Yep. And it just slides right in there.
Okay, so our steak's been sitting here for a little bit. Our
Pulled it out of-
potatoes are
Coming along nicely. We're just about there on those. Steak's rested now about 6 to 8, 10 minutes after it's been pulled out of the oven.
Wonderful.
Took
All
it-
these, this is the rosemary you were talking about,
Yes,
right?
so the rosemary, and there's some thyme on there.
Wow, it's nice and juicy.
It is nice and juicy. And could I borrow your fork, and I'll go ahead and see how this ended up.
It smells delicious.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, it is perfect.
Yeah.
You were right. Do that.
Get that
and then
on
we want to
there.
get some potatoes on here, and then I can try it.
Yes.
The best part of
yes,
this.
ma'am. We can make that happen.
And the potatoes smell wonderful.
It's
Those
the herb, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
You asked about the herb at the beginning.
Yeah, it's.
Cooking with herbs makes all the difference.
Yeah, and I think people should just try it. I mean.
Yeah, just experiment.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Turns ordinary potatoes into something special.
Yes, it does.
Okay. This looks yummy. I'm going to take a small bite so that.
Everybody gets a taste.
Yeah, we have students here, so they want to make. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, good.
Okay, let's try some potatoes.
Not bad, huh?
Those are very good. I'm going to have to get some spice now.
Yeah, that's
Very,
what we
very
like.
nice. Well, thank you so much, Isaac. I really appreciate you joining us today and spicing up the WBGU kitchen with Wildman Spice Company. Good luck, and I'm going to be needing to try more of these potatoes and steak before everybody else gets bites. So,
Yes, absolutely.
thank
There's
you so
more.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll be back in just a moment for more of WBGU Cooks here on WBGU PBS. Keep in mind that programs like WBGU Cooks don't just happen without your support. You can look at various gift levels that will help provide support for programs like WBGU Cooks, all our other local programming, and the PBS program you enjoy as well. So, for $60, you receive the Best of WBGU Cookbook, the WBGU Spoon, Preview Guide, and Passport. For a gift of $90, the cookbook, the tablet holder, preview guide, and passport. For $120, the State of Ohio cutting board, preview, and passport. And for $180, you get everything: the cutting board, the cookbook, the tablet holder, preview guide and passport, and the WBGU spoon. So 1-800-410-2727, and you can select those various gift levels, okay? Now, if you want to check out the recipes, WBGU.org/WBGU Cooks. Once again, $60, Best of Cookbook, Spoon, Preview Guide, Passport. $90, Cookbook, Tablet Holder, Preview Guide, Passport. $120, State of Ohio Cutting Board, Preview, and Passport. And for $180, all of this: cutting board, cookbook, tablet holder, preview guide, passport, and spoon. 1-800-410-2727. And now, kind of an example of what we have done with your support over the past year during the pandemic, we're going to take a look at some of the things that we've produced, some of the activities, some of the initiatives that your dollars have helped support, along with the programming you see every day on WBGU PBS. So let's take a look at this video clip of what we've done over the past year, the pandemic year, and how you've helped support WBGU PBS.
While the world was socially distancing, we at WBGU PBS reevaluated how we could best provide relevant programs and services that educate, entertain, and engage our local community. We supported our local educators and learning institutes by conducting 51 virtual professional development workshops that reached over 500 K-12 and early childhood educators. We branched into new virtual territories with our kids services, our local programs, and our community collaboration and engagements. We helped Bowling Green State University in their mission to create and maintain public good, and continually evolved our daily schedule to provide reliable programming during a time of global uncertainty. Lastly, we donated over 4,000 items to support education and well-being to local organizations. While much has changed, we at WBGU PBS remain focused on bettering our community and bringing the best of PBS to our region.
So there you can see how your dollars help support activities at WBGU PBS. Now, again, here's how you can help us out right now. 1-800-410-2727. For a gift of $60, the Best of WBGU Cookbooks, the Spoon, the Preview Guide, and Passport. For $90, the Cookbook, the Tablet Holder, Preview Guide, and Passport. For $120, the State of Ohio Cutting Board, Preview, and Passport. And if you'd like all of these items, for a gift of $180, you receive the cutting board, the cookbook, the tablet holder, preview guide, passport, and the WBGU spoon, my favorite. 1-800-410-2727. Help support WBGU PBS. And keep in mind, if you want to take a look at the recipes from today's program, you can go to WBGU.org/WBGU Cooks. Now, for those of you who've watched WBGU for years, you know that this isn't the first time we've done WBGU Cooks. And over time, we've covered a lot of territory when it comes to cooking recipes and activities. Let's take a look at a retro segment from a very early WBGU Cook produced here on WBGU PBS. And thanks again for your support.
Hi, we're here with Sue Kreienkamp and her granddaughter, Leah, and we're going to be making a chocolate chip coffee cake. Now, doesn't that sound decadent? I mean, who doesn't like chocolate? Come on. Chocolate chips in a coffee cake are like chocolate chips on top of breakfast cereal. You got to have them, you know? I just love them. Sue, why don't you go in and tell us what you're going to do here today?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have Leah grease the pan. You need to grease the pan around so we can get the coffee cake out. And
yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, that's really important.
Trust me, I've done that even recently, and then I scooped the stuff up, put it in a bowl, and said, well, it was supposed to look like that, pour the frosting on it, you know. And I probably have some of my friends that I gave that to listening, and they're going, oh, that's how it happened.
Okay. And next I'm going to have her mix the cinnamon mixture. Now for this one, you can add nuts at any time, any kind of nuts. But for this one, I'm not going to, because there are some occasions when people don't like nuts. So she's going to mix the cinnamon for me.
And you're finding a lot of people are starting to get nut allergies all of a sudden.
Nut allergies, or yes.
Some of those can be pretty critical.
That's
so you really
right.
got to tell somebody when you're putting nuts in something these days.
Yes. So we have
cinnamon, we have sugar going in here.
We have a teaspoon and a half cinnamon. And then she's mixing it with, you actually have 2 cups of sugar, and we take about a third of it and put it in here for her.
Okay, this is for the topping? Or
this is for the topping.
Okay.
And then actually, instead of the chips, we have the chocolate chunks.
I like those.
She's going to mix that for us.
Now, whose chocolate chunks are those? You know?
Those are Hershey's.
Hershey's, okay. Because there's a lot of them out there. There's, you know, the Ghirardelli and the Hershey's and the Bakers and
It was hard for me to find.
Nestle's.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of
find
them, there is a very distinct difference in the taste when you bake them.
Yes.
So is there one you prefer?
Actually, I've only used this kind because this was the only kind I could find.
Gotcha.
And it works out very well in the fact that it does not melt. It is also in between the layers of the batter, and it's on top, and it doesn't melt into
so
the
it stays
cake.
as like a
firm.
chunk.
Stays
I like
firm.
that.
So next what I'm going to do while she's doing that, I'm going to put the butter, which it's softened butter, put it in the mixer.
Great. My favorite kind of mixer, one that's big and industrial.
Yes, it's my favorite kind. Then we're going to mix the remainder of the sugar in with the butter.
Okay.
Just so it gets nice and creamy.
You know what, I like this, by the way, that you brought your granddaughter. One of the things I think we need to do more of today are get kids involved in the kitchen. Start them learning those recipes that my great-grandmother made that are lost because they were never written down, or just to have the fun of being part of the family and building something you're going to have for dinner. So I applaud you for bringing Leah in today, Sue. I think this is great. We need to get kids into cooking these days.
Now we're going to add the eggs one at a time, and we're going to mix after each one. Oh my.
You know, you can throw all 3 eggs in. All it does is take forever to mix the stuff together. If you do one at a time, they incorporate better. And actually, it's a little quicker. And if you're like me and you put it on high, it throws it out of the bowl. So you do want to do them one at a time.
Save that for the flour.
That's all right. I do that too.
Okay, now we have that mixed. So all we do next now is I want to turn that off a minute so I can lift it up. And you just kind of alternate the flour with the sour cream.
Just all-purpose flour?
Yes.
Bleached, unbleached?
It's just all-purpose flour.
You know, there are so many different ones out there today in the way of flours. King Arthur's got probably 7 or 8 different kinds.
I know.
The organic, the non-organic, all the different kinds of flours you can get. The same with sour cream. I don't know if you've looked at the sour creams lately, but there's one brand out there, if you turn the thing around, it says cream. Another one you turn around, it's got 27 ingredients I can't pronounce, and I'm pretty good. So depending upon where you're at, and you want real sour cream, take a look at the stuff that's in the supermarket before you use it.
Actually, today you're getting fat-free.
Oh, fat-free. Okay.
We try to cut it just a little bit, even though this is a rich recipe. So.
Well, it is, with all the butter and the eggs in it. I'd still go for the real stuff.
You'd still, okay.
Yeah, but that's me, you know. I never cut back on fat and calories. For those of you that have signed up to come to this cooking class here, you will find that I believe in full flavor.
I think you'll like it anyway.
Oh, I know I will.
Okay, we're just going to mix this around until it's smooth.
With a mixer like this, doesn't take but a few seconds.
Doesn't take long at all.
And if you do have a mixer like this, fair warning, they don't stop if you get your fingers in there, so don't. They're going to keep going.
One thing we didn't add yet, I almost neglected, we have baking powder.
Okay, we need to put that in.
And soda.
I've done that before,
and
where
salt.
I made a cake and forgot the baking powder. About that thick. Called it a crepe, called it even. Nobody knew.
Was it hard as a rock? Oh, okay.
Reminded me of my mother's cooking, so. I started cooking in self-defense. That was another. But anyway.
Uh-oh.
That's another long story.
Okay.
You know, quality kitchen products do make a difference when you look at the quality of like the batter that came out here. It's just beautiful. I mean, if you were over here looking at this, and I think that's just a beautiful batter.
So.
Okay, so we need to get that in the pan.
We're going to put some of that, about a third of it, in the pan, because I'm going to make layers with this.
Okay. And maybe smear it around.
Then Leah's going to be my aide next, and she's going to add.
Okay.
Some of the mixture for us.
It's just like almost a cake frosting in consistency. It's a beautiful consistency, which means that it's going to be really thick and rich and dense when it's done, which I love. To me, there's nothing worse than a fluffy cake that has no flavor and is dry. You need one that's got some body and has some density to it.
Okay.
Looks great.
Good. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the batter.
Absolutely looks great. Okay, then we put the rest of the batter and we put a top on it?
Actually, the rest of the cinnamon mixture goes on top.
Okay.
This gets a little tricky. It's a good thing that you save a little bit extra to go, otherwise you're going to mix up the layers like I'm doing right now.
It's not going to hurt a thing. It's absolutely beautiful. Just pile it on. You know, that's another thing. You don't really have to worry too much because when this bakes, it's going to spread out.
Yep.
The natural tendency of any baking product, because of the leavening and because of the fats that are in it, are going to force it out to the edge of the pan. So you don't have to worry if it's absolutely perfect when you put it in the pan. Although, this is pretty good because that's a tough thing to spread. You got all that cinnamon in there and chocolate, and it's not the easiest thing to move. I know, I've done this enough.
You're pretty good
Okay,
cook,
we want to get that on there, and then we want to get the other one out here so we can show everybody.
Okay.
So spread that on. Why don't you go grab the one we have in the oven?
Okay. I'm going to cheat and not use a hot pad here.
Yes, this is our really hot oven, by the way. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely beautiful.
Now this one has walnuts on it.
Okay, we want to get that cut up and
Okay.
get a piece of it out here. Move this one out of the way into the oven. Why don't you go get that one ready?
It's kind of a heavy batter. That sour cream makes it very nice.
Nah, it just makes it right.
It does.
Terrific. Now, do you serve anything like whipped cream with this, or?
I haven't yet. It's nice to have with a fresh cup of coffee, or you can add anything else, but I haven't put whipped cream on it yet.
I could see it with whipped cream, a little more chocolate syrup, maybe a sprinkling of cinnamon on top of it. And, go whole hog for it. That is not only gorgeous for breakfast, but I'd see that as a terrific dessert. Absolutely terrific dessert. So when you're making this at home, I use the high-fat sour cream. Sue decided she didn't, but that's up to you. I prefer everything a little on the high side. But obviously, like any recipe, and I said it earlier, it's a roadmap. Feel free to go around and do what you want with it.
We hope you enjoyed WBGU PBS Cooks Made It, and were inspired by the recipes, our community's talented chefs and bakers, and their stories. To support our mission to provide relevant programs and services that educate, entertain, and engage the local community, donate now by calling 1-800-410-2727. Thank you for your continued support, and we will see you again soon on our next WBGU PBS Cooks.